Good afternoon to all. There was a question that came across to me, and it was asked as a request whether the one that I showcased yesterday. I'm talking about the critical appraisal review guidelines as well as the critical review form, also as we popularly call it as the McMaster's review paper or review form basically. Now if you would look at it, now guidelines are meant to understand as to how to you go ahead and read that particular form while you are I would say reading a particular qualitative paper. However, I would like to add on that that is not the only thing that is available for us as of now. There are other kind of papers also which are available to us, and paper in the sense I'm talking about the checklist, and you can use these review forms which are available as per your need and understanding. If you feel that yes, McMaster's checklist is the most easiest one for you, you can use it. Now the reason why I introduced McMaster is that across the globe it has been observed that McMaster's review critical review form is the most popular one, and it has been introduced to the world of students and scholars right from the post graduation level. Now I'm and that is the reason why I thought, okay, let me go ahead and introduce to each one of you. So that was my intention, number one. Number two, I have showcased to you both qualitative as well as the quantitative. Now this is in this particular video walk I'm going to introduce to you another paper, I would say the review form, which is popularly called as the critical appraisal skills paper, and this particular checklist also, which is in short called as the CASP, is the most important one. It comprises of 10 questions exclusively, number two, and it will be first I would be introducing it for the qualitative research, and then I will go ahead with the quantitative. Now in this particular appraisal tool, remember this is basically used even if you are going ahead and reviewing I would say the material which is there, which you have downloaded or collected across the various papers. You can definitely use this as a tool, and it will be really be helpful for you to write when you are going to put them in a sequence form. Now here this entire I would say appraisal tool has been divided into three categories, which are called as the section A, section B and section C. In section A you will be focusing more on the results of the study valid, in the sense that the paper that you have chosen to study, to make a review, what kind of the results are there and are they the valid ones. Now that is being questioned and raised out in question in section A, number one. Number two, what are the results in that particular paper, that is covered in section B. And in section C, I would say, will the results help locally for you also or not, is what you are going to focus upon. So you can see that all the three sections, now it is not like McMaster. Now you see, when like I'm aware of the other critical appraisal tools which are available, and if you ask me to give you the differences, I will give it to you. And if you will ask me, okay, Ramni ma'am, can you please tell me out of these critical tools which one is suitable for which school and in what way we should do it, I can help you out with that also. However, as a person, now I would prefer that first let me go ahead and introduce to you all of them together and then discuss depending upon your this thing as to which one is the most suitable one. So let us begin with the 10 questions which are there in this particular tool, and then we would go ahead and understand it. And here you will also see that the first two questions are the screening questions, and they can be answered very quickly. It's a proper training that has been given to us. And when I'm taking the workshop, let's say for the social sciences students or for the medicine student, at that time, each and everything, and we really put a paper in front of us, and then we are reading these things also, so that you get the feeling about it, and the hands-on experience is also there. And number two, you are able to implement it immediately. You don't like to use it later on. So that is the best part of understanding these things. Now the first two questions are the screening questions, remember that, and can be answered very quickly. And both of them, most of them are in the form of yes, no, maybe, I don't know kind of a thing. It is worth proceeding with the remaining questions. There is some degree of overlapping also over there, and we will see what those are. So this is about it. Now I'm not going to read the other things which are there, otherwise you will get confused whether this has to be used only in certain schools or what. Now I would say that it's not necessary that it has to be used in a particular manner. We can go ahead and we can definitely read them more and understand for ourselves also. So whenever you're using this particular tool, kindly go ahead and you will have to cite it. You first of all refer it, that yes, this has been used as a tool in order to make a review, a critical assessment for yourself. Now after that, you will see, now this is the form that I have got, and let us focus upon each and every section very clearly and try to understand what they are asking us. And again, you will see the screen has been divided into three parts for me. One, section A, where the questions are there. Just below this block, you can see that yes, there is number, a numeric one, then a question has been raised out, number two, number three, options are given to you, number three, and then on the right hand side is the most important part, which you will have to understand and see whether this is going to be comprehensible for you or not. Now here, let's look at the first question. The question says, are the results valid? Now let me go ahead and read the hint that has been given. What was the goal of the research? Now this is exactly, now when you are talking about the goal, they are talking about the aim, number one. Number two, think about the focus, which I said in majority of the Scopus papers or ABCD paper. Okay, they are focusing on this, number two. Number three, it even tells you what are the intentions of the author. One author or two authors or three authors. Nowadays I see that, I don't know, in some papers, especially in the domain of medicine, psychology, organizational behavior, in all these things, it's not just a single author, it's a team. And in some papers I have seen there are around 25 people, 18 people, 15 people, and I keep wondering as to how they are dividing the work. Now when I interviewed some of the authors, and I myself was involved into the team to write a paper, at that time I understood that one person opts for giving you absolutely the title of the paper that you are going to do. Now before they can proceed further with the paper, just with the domain, the kind of the work that you are interested in, and the department that you come in, the titles are chosen. Let's say between there are two more authors with me, A, B, and third person is Ramini. So the first author definitely stands up and says that this would be the title. Maybe we can make the changes later on, however this is what I'm proposing for. Remember that they would be using the word proposing, so they propose the title along with the subject and the keywords are given. So the second person goes ahead and they, depending upon these keywords, they start searching the various databases which are there. It can be Web of Science, it can be let's say Elsevier or Taylor Francis, Sage, or even you can go ahead with Emerald, and other Scopus journals are present. The second person will, after the search is over, the entire material has been collected, it is has to be given to the person who is going to do the review of literature. Now when we come down to the level of review of literature, it is not just the bunch of papers that matters a lot. You have to read it properly. Now when you are reading, I'll showcase to you maybe in a different playlist or what, how to understand the visualizations that has been shared over there. Number 2, number 3, what are the methods, and that is where we are coming in all those things. So you see, it's not just like that a paper has been published and in a Scopus. Now it is right from the beginning how the 2 or 3 individuals are working together and then coming up with the analytical part or writing or interpretation or understanding the results and the conclusion. Each and everything matters a lot over there. And then definitely, yes, working out with the editor and trying to understand whether the way you have written the paper is perfectly fine or not. So there are a lot of things. So here the goal, and let me come back to this one. What was the goal of the research? Why it was thought important? Number 2. Number 3, its relevance. If you are able to answer these 3 questions, then you are aware of this part of the question. Was there a clear statement that has been given to us, and the aims of the research also, and your comments over here. So you see, you have got the hints out here. Number 1. Number 2, start writing down. That's what I said. If you have downloaded, let's say on the first day, let's say 5 papers, or maybe you can start off with 1 paper, I would say. Take a printout of this one and keep it in front of you, or if you're comfortable to do it on the computer itself, just do it. So that will help you a lot initially, and later on you can increase the number of papers that you are reading and you are able to do it all by yourself. The second question is qualitative methodology appropriate? Yes, can't tell, no. Some of the papers, when they were handed over to me in some of the workshops, and they said that these are my qualitative papers and I have published it. I started looking at it, whether they really know what kind of methodology they are using it, number 1. Number 2, that's the main point. And if they have said that, yes, I have used so and so methodology, the question raises for me whether they have read that particular, I would say, methodology correctly, or is it that without any knowledge they just have written just for the heck of it. Now you understand there's a lot of difference between it. Now if I say that yes, I know this thing very well, and let's say for the marketing, now you will ask me, so Ramani ma'am, you must be reading a lot of Philip Kotler's book, and you must be knowing from page 1 to page last page of it. Then if I have read it, then I know para by para or page number or the chapter. So you can ask me, can you tell me what is the title of the 6th chapter? Now, you see, you might catch hold of me like that, or you can even say on that particular page number of Philip Kotler's book on Introduction to the Marketing, can you tell me what is written, and do you agree with that whatever Philip Kotler has said? At that moment you are the one that you need to understand and see whether you have really read that text. Now it is the same thing out here when you are talking about the qualitative methodology. Did you use it appropriately? Now that is the question for me. And then the hint is given to us here is that if the research seeks to interpret or illuminate, now you see, now look at the words that they are using. Is it that the research is looking for the interpretation, or is it highlighting or illuminating the actions, or is it subjective experiences of the research participants? If you are able to understand the words that I've just underlined it, you will know that the methodology which a person has used is either interpretivism or action theory of the qualitative side, I would say. A subjective experiences which they are talking about, it is basically the phenomenology. So you see, just looking at this, I'm able to tell. And nowadays, even if you are are opting for the phenomenology, which school of phenomenology are you talking about? If you tell me that yes, I'm focusing on hermeneutics without mentioning the name of Richard Rorty in the paper, I don't think so you can even proceed further in performing your qualitative study out there. So that is what I'm looking for, the genuine and the authentic qualitative paper, definitely has to enter. Now Creswell, when he is discussing, he is aware of the schools and each and everything, and later on in my playlist on qualitative studies, you will see that it is not just the school of that particular phenomenology which is important. However, how you are applying it in the qualitative study is also equally important. That's number one. Number two, you will see that is qualitative research the right methodology for addressing the research goal. Fine, you have cited your research goal for me. However, do you think that qualitative research is the appropriate way to proceed further? Now, you are questioning it immediately in your second point itself. Now, you understood why this particular critical appraisal tool becomes really important when it comes for the reading of a qualitative paper. So, that goes with the second question. So, you can understand now how to differentiate between an authentic and just for the sake of publishing the work, writing a qualitative paper. Next is after that. Now this is where the next question comes. Is it worth continuing to read the further paper? Now if I have understood till here, trust me, I don't proceed further in reading the paper. I'll just pick it up and I'll put it onto the side. Okay, the person really wanted to publish the paper for the sake of receiving the marks or in his API score to increase it. That's the reason why they wanted. They spent the money giving 25,000 or 35,000 to so and so editor, and then they have got the paper published. However, the question arises, is that the way that you want to proceed further? Now you understood what I mean to say. The third question addresses more than that, and that is, was the research design appropriate to address the aims of the research? Now did you understand the question that we are coming up? One, what was the aim of the person who has published the paper? Number two, was it worthwhile to read it? Now you are asking the question, did that thing really continue with the aim? And hint is that what? If the researcher has justified the research design, example, have they discussed how they decided? Now how they decided, I just give you the hint that yes, there are certain points which has to be there, and if they are missing, understand that this is not a genuine qualitative paper for us in a manner. The next one that if you can look into it is basically, was the recruitment strategy appropriate to the aims of the research? Now what do you mean by that? Fine, I have the check boxes to correct it out as yes, can't tell, no. However, what do we mean by this? It means if the researcher has explained how the participants were selected. Now you see, this is very important. Now usually again when you are reading, there are very few papers which are very good and well written for the qualitative research side. I had observed it. Now if you look, how did you select the participants? Now you see, that is also very important thing for us to understand. If they explained why the participants they selected were the most appropriate to provide the access to the type of knowledge. Now just try to understand the 3-4 lines that this the tool is specifying it. Number one, fine, they have explained the participants. However, the selected and the identified participants, how are they going to be aligned with the kind of the knowledge you wanted to study? For example, I have chosen phenomenology. Now for phenomenology, why did I choose those participants? Now that is the relationship that they are asking you out here. If there are any discussions around recruitment, here recruitment means the participant selection and the identification. Why some people chose not to take part? Now, for example, obviously, if these data that you are going to collect or the kind of questions that you are asking are very sensitive, at that time, maybe 1 or 2 individuals might hesitate and they would say, no, I don't want to participate. in this particular forum, whatever that area is going to be. So how it has been clearly mentioned out in qualitative research papers. Always remember, the transparency is always existing. That is, as you are reading line by line, you will feel as though you yourself are experiencing and you yourself have written that kind of a paper. Now that is the way in which you can understand about the qualitative. So this kind of a comments you can write out here. Coming to the fifth question, was the data collected in a way that was addressed the research issue? For example, if the setting of the data collection was justified or not. Now majority of the time, if people tell me that okay, I'm going ahead with the content analysis, now my question arises, what kind of a content analysis are you doing? If they are able to tell me that yes, this is the kind of content analysis I'm doing, and not just whatever way we want, just because we have few softwares with us, that cannot be feasible at all. There are various ways in which you need to specify as to how, why, and in what manner it was taken care. If it is clear how data were collected, example, focus group, structured interviews, semi-structured interviews, or it was it a combination of both of them, or you preferred not to go ahead, there were some field notes which were there, and if the field notes were there, what were the procedures that were used over there? All those things comes into the picture. If the researcher has justified the methods chosen or not. So you start questioning them, was the entire process justified for you? Then if the researcher has made the methods explicit, for example, interview method. If you're taking the interviews, obviously, the tables that you're going to generate will not be just one or two. There would be so many tables will be there that when you send that particular paper for the publication, I'm 100% sure that the editor will come and say, can you please reduce, because we have limited space to publish your paper with the kind of the words that we are looking forward from you. The number of the tables, figures, those things have to be reduced. Now that is the first sign that yes, the editor has identified that your paper is the most genuine one with the kind of the things which are being discussed over there. And then or did they use the topic guide? Now we will discuss about these things. However, my intention was to showcase to you as to how tools are available and how they should be used in the Go. Then comes the next question. If methods were modified during the study, if so, has the researcher explained how and why? For example, I start off with let's say Husserl's phenomenology. Suddenly I decide, oh no, I'm not at all fit in with the Husserl's, and let me go ahead and start introducing the hermeneutics by Richard Rorty. Now, if I start up, and Rorty's book is not even, his process is itself not a very easy one. So, if you're not comfortable and you think that, okay, oh my God, what he is talking about is totally different and what actually is happening in the society is very different, that means you cannot apply for Richard Rorty's case out here. Then you will look up for something as structuralism. You will go ahead because that is the most popular one. Then, if that also does not fit, how about Cartesian's dualism? Are we talking about that? That also does not fit for some of us. Then what is the most immediate one? Then you start questioning, looking up what exactly is I am looking forward, and then you go ahead and you write it down very clearly. I began thinking that yes, Husserl's phenomenology will be there. However, later on I saw no, this is not the one. Then I wanted to adopt Rortyian process and procedures. However, that also did not fit in for me. So I thought, why I should not opt for something else, and that can be on the lines of some operational ones or pragmatic schools you can look up by William James or by somebody else, and then you go ahead. If that also does not, then you need to understand as to why these things are failing and which one is going to be the most appropriate one for you. If the form of data is clear, example, tape recordings, video material, notes, etc., or not, then definitely yes, you need to showcase. Now if you see the books on qualitative research, now I'm talking about the books also, you will see that the publisher gives you right to go ahead and upload as many pictures as you want to be published in that one, because that shows that yes, you were really involved into your research. After that, Once that has been taken care of, then what else? The existence of the tables, figures, charts, graphs that you are going to do, all these things will be supporting to you. Similarly, sometimes recordings are there for us. You make an effort, maybe in the form of a video or in the form of let's say an audio transcription, and then you go ahead, a lot of images are there for you. So how do you go ahead and you make a note? Or if you are doing for an agricultural field, how the field was divided, let's say during for growing the crops in summer months or in winter months, or are they taking care of the cereals as well as the leguminous plants together? And if it is the leguminous plants, what variety of it? And if it is not, nowadays even farmers have become multi-skilled, and I see that in the leguminous plants also they're making a choice that it's just not the plant that I'm looking for giving that nitrogen oxide to the soil. However, even flowers are there. For example, sweet pea, when you get that sweet pea flowers, they know that these are being used for the religious purposes. So how the shift has been coming into it is also another way in which the documentations and recordings can be taken care of. Similarly comes the notes, and while you are making the notes, what all things are there that can also be taken care, especially if you are a student of law or the legal studies. For example, you go to a prison or you're interacting with an individual during the partition time. So at that time, whatever they are telling to you, especially, I don't know whether you have observed this thing or not, in one of my interviews with a very senior person who was the victim of the partition time, he shared with me that while they were moving from Pakistan to India, it was not, though in most of the pictures or the documentaries you see that individuals are moving in a straight line. However, he said that if you are looking into the camera, it appears to be, however in reality it is, first it is the children who are there in the circle, the next circle is for the ladies, the third circle is for the older generation or the senior generation, and the last one is for the young or middle aged individuals who are protecting their families and who are, it's like a chakra view again, I would say. So they said that when this kind of a movement was taking place, it was very painful to see that sometimes you may lose one or the other of your family members and age and everything. So while they are explaining, and if they are from the educated class, they take a sheet of a paper, and on sheet of paper they literally draw as to in this circle only how they were making the movement along with their I would say the things that they were carrying. I wouldn't say luggage, basically it was the word that they यूज was not luggage, it was like हमारा सामान जो हम पाकिस्तान से भारत लेके आ रहे थे या हिंदुस्तान लेके, they don't even like to use the word Bharat more, they prefer to use the word Hindustan. जब हम हिंदुस्तान आ रहे थे तो हमारे साथ ये वाला सामान भी हमारे साथ था, बैगेज या लगेज करके नहीं बोलते थे वो लोग. So these kind of things, when they are making a note and giving it to you, you can see the importance of those things. Now I have also collected a lot of things in terms of the locks, keys, and if you go to the Partition Museum at Amritsar, you will see that there are so many things that really reveal a lot of things if you are doing a qualitative study for yourself. So these kind of things you can understand if the researcher has discussed saturation of the data. Now this is also important, like sometimes when you are taking up the interviews, you just land up taking up only 3 or 4. So Creswell says not less than 40 or 41 interviews if you are planning to publish. Just one interview for a focus group, that cannot be taken care at all. Then he says if you read his book very clearly, he has mentioned the number of interviews, how they have to be scanned out and churned out to get the relevant information also. So that takes place with our fifth question. In my next video, the one that is going to follow immediately, I'll be focusing on next 5 questions also side by side. So now you understood why I introduced the McMaster, because that gives you a flavor of how exactly a critical assessment or critical appraisal tool appears to be. Now as I proceed further with the next one, so that becomes your base to start off with your qualitative research work. Then this becomes your next level, so the churning process begins for you, and you will see as we proceed further how many churnings are required for each one of you, so that you can get the authentic data for yourself for publishing a good qualitative paper. So thanks a lot for watching and staying with me, and let me come back with yet another one immediately, in which I'll start off for the next 5 questions. Till then, thanks and take care. Bye.